My name is Elise, and I was 29 when my mother looked me dead in the eye and said, "We're giving the house to your brother. He needs stability more than you do." Like she was talking about rearranging furniture, not handing over the only real thing I had left for my father. We were sitting in the kitchen of that very house, the one on Hawthorne Drive in Winston-Salem, where I had baked cookies with my dad and decorated windows for Christmas, the one I mowed lawns to help keep after he died. My hands were wrapped around a chipped glass of orange juice, still cold, but my heart had gone numb. My mother stood by the sink, wiping an already clean counter like it would erase what she'd just said. Across from me, my younger brother Nolan, all 6 feet of him slouched in that faded hoodie, acted like this wasn't about him, even though every second of this was about him. My mother kept talking, said Nolan was going through a rough patch, said giving him the house would help him feel grounded. I sat there in the same seat where I once studied for my nursing exams, while Nolan partied through 2 failed college attempts. They didn't even ask me, just handed it to him, like I was the extra. My mom said, "You're doing fine, Elise. You've always been the strong one." And just like that, the ground beneath my identity cracked open. Because in my family, strong was just the word they used to justify leaving me behind. I looked at Nolan then, expecting some kind of protest, some guilt, but all he did was shrug. No apology, no thanks, just entitlement carved into his face like it belonged there. And then Mom said something that felt like a slap. She said, "Your father would have wanted this." I didn't say a word because the last time I heard my dad talk about the house, he told me it would always be my home, not Nolan's crash pad, mine. I looked over at Drew, my fiancé, who had been silent the entire time. His brow was furrowed, jaw tight, eyes flickering between them and me. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't try to argue, he just reached over and placed his hand on mine, firm and certain. That touch told me everything I needed to hear. He saw me. Mom started backpedaling, saying we could still visit any time, that nothing was changing, that it was still our family home. But my blood was humming too loud to hear her excuses. I asked when they decided all this. She said it was after Nolan called crying about not knowing where his life was going. I almost laughed, because for years I had no idea where my life was going either. I just never made it everyone else's problem. I asked her if she thought about telling me first, asking me what I thought. She blinked, confused, and said, "Why would we? You always understand." That's when it hit me. Being understanding in this family meant being disposable. Being mature meant they didn't have to consider me at all. Drew squeezed my hand again, then finally he spoke. He said, clear and calm, "So this is final." My mother looked uneasy but nodded. Nolan didn't even flinch. Drew stood up, thanked them for their honesty, and gently helped me to my feet. I didn't even remember walking to the car. I just remember the way the porch creaked under my feet, like it always had, and how small I suddenly felt standing there. In the car, I stared at the same neighborhood I used to bike through as a kid, only now it looked different, like it had chosen someone else. Drew didn't say much on the drive home. He let the silence speak for itself. When we got inside, I sat on the couch and whispered the first thing that came to my lips. "I'm sorry." He turned and looked at me like I had said something in another language. He said this wasn't my fault, that what they gave away was just wood and brick, but what they withheld was worse, respect. I told him I didn't want to fight with them, that I wasn't trying to make this ugly, that I was tired of being the one who made everything harder. He listened, really listened, the way someone does when they're not just waiting for their turn to speak. And then he said something that made my chest tighten. He said, "Elise, this isn't about a house. This is about a pattern, the way they treat you like the backup plan, the afterthought." I asked him what he meant. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he got up and came back with his phone. He told me he had already written down what he would say to them, in case this day ever came. I laughed a little, bitter and flat. I thought he was kidding, but his face was serious. He said we wouldn't beg, we wouldn't plead, and we definitely wouldn't accept this quietly. He told me there would be consequences, not as revenge, but as boundaries, real ones. I asked him what kind of boundaries. That's when he told me he would give them 3 days, 72 hours, no more. They would have to decide what kind of relationship they wanted with me moving forward, one where they kept pretending I didn't matter, or one where they finally saw me as someone worth choosing. I felt something cold and real slip down my spine. Not fear, not anger, just the truth. I asked him when he planned to tell them. He said, tomorrow morning, and he did. He called my mother just after 9 a.m., voice calm but with an edge that told her this wasn't just a conversation. He asked to meet again, just us and them, no Nolan. She agreed, quickly, too quickly, like she already knew they'd gone too far. We sat in the same kitchen the next evening, same chairs, same walls, but everything felt different. I wasn't holding a glass this time. I was holding my breath. My mother offered sweet tea, like this was a Sunday visit. My brother's name never came up. Then Drew spoke, steady and clear. "You told Elise she doesn't need the house because she's strong. You gave it to someone who's never held anything together, and you called it love." My mother's hand froze mid-pour. My stepfather stiffened. Drew didn't look away. He turned to me and said, "You've been told your strength is the reason you don't get anything, like being whole is a crime." And then he turned back to them and said the words I still hear in my sleep. "You have 72 hours." The room went still. My mother blinked, confused. My stepfather asked, "What does that even mean?" Drew didn't flinch. He explained that this wasn't a threat, it was a line. In 72 hours, they could either acknowledge what they did, apologize sincerely, and try to rebuild, or they would not be at our wedding, or in our lives. My mother began to cry softly, said we were being cruel. Drew said no. Cruel is making one child feel invisible while handing everything to another and calling it fairness. I sat there frozen, heart racing, but I didn't interrupt. For once, I didn't protect them from the consequences of their choices. My stepfather crossed his arms and said they stood by their decision. Drew nodded, said, "Then we'll stand by ours." We left. I was shaking by the time we got to the car, but something in me had finally stopped bending. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing all the years I said, "It's okay," when it wasn't. All the times I swallowed disappointment so they could stay comfortable. The next day, my mother sent paragraphs about her sacrifices, about family, about how hard parenting is. Not once did she say sorry. On the second day, my stepfather left a voicemail accusing Drew of poisoning me, said I'd changed. He was right, I had. On the third day, silence. Not peace, just absence. When the 72 hours passed, Drew blocked their numbers. No drama, just quiet. I expected to feel hollow. Instead, I felt like someone finally exhaled for me. We paid for our wedding ourselves. No backup venue, no extra guests, but it felt honest. It felt earned. I walked down the aisle and saw only the people who chose me without conditions. My mother didn't come. My brother never reached out. But I stood there, hand in hand with a man who never once made me feel like I was asking for too much. And I realized what they gave away was never really mine. But what I kept, that was everything. Months later, my mother sent a message asking when she could stop being punished. I told her calmly that love without accountability wasn't love I could hold onto anymore. I said I wished her peace, but I'd found my own. I'm telling this story because I know someone out there is still waiting for their family to pick them, to see them. If that's you, hear me. You don't have to keep waiting. Being the strong one doesn't mean being the forgotten one. Choosing peace isn't cruel. It's necessary. Most people scroll past stories like this. The ones who subscribe are the ones trying to change something inside themselves. If this made you stop scrolling, subscribe to get more stories like this every day. Comment and share this with someone who needs it.